Welcome back. I was on the phone the other day with a wonderful yogi, and I started telling my grounding crisis story. And it occurred to me, I haven't talked about this for a while. It's probably buried somewhere in my YouTube channel. So, wouldn't it be nice if I went through this story a little bit? It's very informative to why I do everything the way that I do it. It's extremely formative to my journey. And so understanding this will help you understand why I approach things the way I do, why I say things the way I do, and encourage you to meditate the way that I do. You'll understand the why. I'm attempting to help you avoid all of the pitfalls that I ran into headlong. So let's get into that story now. So I was in the ashram, and they said the spiritual eye, all of their writings were about the spiritual eye. It was the core focus of everything. So, of course, I was using the spiritual eye in meditation and all day like crazy. I would actually spend my entire day focusing on the spiritual eye. And that's a very, very ungrounding practice. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was also doing spinal breathing. Only. I was not doing Om Japa in the chakras. I didn't have that technology. I did not have Navi Kriya. I certainly wasn't doing enough of the Maha Mudra. And then to top it all off, I was already kind of an ivory tower kind of individual. I liked to spend my time up in the air in ideas rather than being grounded right here in the moment. I was also practicing all of the Kriyas that this lineage had. So there were 4 Kriyas that they had, and I was doing all of them. And I had a full-on Kundalini awakening. First of all, I was seeing the light. I was hearing the sound anytime I wanted to. I could just go like this, and I would see the light and hear the sound of the Om. Sometimes I would see it and hear it spontaneously in meditation. Sometimes I'd be walking, and the spiritual eye would suddenly appear. I remember one time I was with Mitrananda, and somebody had put a little note on his table to shame on Forrest. He did something bad. And so they were all, informing on their brothers. It was a horrible situation. And so Mitrananda saw this little note, and I knew the note was about me. Somebody had told me there's a note about you. And so I knew the note was about me, and he was picking up the note, but I had just had a full-blown, amazing meditation, and I was sitting at my table watching him, and the spiritual eye was there. And so we finished the meal that we were all having, and the spiritual eye was just there for me. And Mitrananda read the note, and he started to lay into me. And he didn't do it by calling me out. He would do it by, there's somebody that did something like this, and this is why this is bad. And he would grill you and grill you and grill you until you just kind of let, oh my God, how did I do this? What's wrong with me? You'd start to question your whole life and your own sanity and on and on. He would really grill you, so you got the point. It was incredible training, but it was grilling, to be sure. And I can't remember what it was at all. It was a minor thing. I probably did do something that was not perfectly correct, but it was minor. It was very minor. But I couldn't concentrate on any of that because the spiritual eye was there. So he was grilling me, and usually I would kind of curl up into a ball and try to hide, as we all would. And I couldn't do it. The spiritual eye was right there, and I just, wow, this is amazing. I'm just, yes, okay, whatever. all I could think about was that spiritual eye. And he just gave up. He's like, oh, it must not be correct or whatever. And he just let it go. There's a beautiful little moment when you're constantly being grilled like that. It was like, oh, what a blessing. So it's funny, occasionally I get people, they're like, well, you must not know about Kundalini because of the way you talk about Kundalini. No, no, I went down the entire road of Kundalini. I know exactly all about it. Oh, you must not know about the spiritual eye, or you must not have it correctly because of the way that you talk about it. No, no, I went all the way down that road. I know exactly. I know the whole thing. I did the whole program, you see. I know. I know all of the pitfalls because I went straight into all of them. All of them. I did the whole thing. I know all of the Kriyas. I did all of them. I know exactly what it's going to do to you. So I was having this Kundalini rising, this energy that was just shooting up and shooting up and shooting up. And it would begin as soon as I started to think or talk about anything remotely spiritual. And so my friends would come to me and we would talk about spiritual things and we would excite each other and then we'd run back and meditate some more, right? And they would do this with me, and which I loved, but it would start to immediately raise all of the Kundalini energy, go straight into my brain, come straight into the spiritual eye that I was so heavily focused on, and it would start to split my brain. I would have a tremendous headache that would last for hours. And I realized what was happening. Oh my God, everything spiritual is awakening my Kundalini, and I am completely unbalanced at that point. It's giving me a raging headache. And I would see my friends who I loved and adored. I would see them and I would go, oh, hi! And I would run. I would just run away because I couldn't stand another 2-hour headache. And it took me forever to figure out, look, you've got the heaven. The heaven has opened up to you. But you're still here. You still have a body. You still have to function like a normal human being. You have to have heaven and you have to have earth. You have to have both. You have to balance inside of you heaven and earth. And so you see, I'm giving you an example, this beautiful posture that you see in martial arts where they go, well, there's heaven and there's earth. And they're touching, they're embodying all of that. And so they're very grounded, and yet they're open to all of heaven, right? They're connected. And that's what we're trying to do in meditation. We're trying to balance all of that. And of course, I didn't have the teaching that Ashoka gave me. Hey, this is the doorway. The medulla is the origin. Go back to the origin. This is the doorway. This is the origin of the heart. Go back to the spine. Go back to the bliss. I didn't have any of that understanding. When you're doing the spinal breathing and you're not cleaning yourself out continuously, you're not doing the Om Japa, it's kind of like you're cleaning up your house and you're running around and you're jostling everything and you're shaking the dust out, but you're not sweeping it out. You're just mixing the dust into the air, and so your life gets, oh my God, it gets full of all this stuff. And I remember one of my friends said, have you noticed how your life is speeding up? I'm like, speeding up? Like more problems are coming faster. I'm like, yes, I have, and that doesn't sound good. Why are you saying this? They all knew it intuitively. They knew that this spinal breathing was speeding things up. You're mixing up all of that dust that's down in the lower chakras, but you gotta have the Clorox of the Om Japa in the chakras. You've got to have that to wipe it out, to clean it out, to get the dust out of the house, and don't just stir it up and go through it. That's not the plan. That's not the original Kriya plan. You have to have the Om Japa. I'm not saying that. He is saying that. Lahiri Baba is saying you've got to have the Om Japa. I don't care what meditation that you're doing. Please, for the love of God, help yourself and do a little bit of Om Japa every single day. And I didn't have the Navi. And so I would have night tears occasionally because you're going into the right brain, and on the right brain is the right amygdala. And I recently heard a story from a monk who was living way before me in the ashram. And he talked about this old soul, this original person who had lived there with Yogananda. And he said many times a negative spirit has come and shoved me off of my meditation chair. Well, what is that? That's an experience of what I've done a video here called The Guardian. That's an experience of that, a personification of the right amygdala, that fear. And why is this showing up? So it showed up for this monk, and it showed up for me occasionally, very occasionally. And I didn't have Navi, and I didn't know what to do. And so in my instant response when this presence came to me in a dream was, I will just beat you up. And I just went into martial arts mode, and I just beat it in my mind. And it went away. It stopped. And then I woke up completely, and I thought, well, maybe I should have just called on God, right? Maybe I should have just called on Divine. But anyway, it seemed to work, right? But it's much better if you just have Navi Kriya and you never encounter the problem because you have the 3 insurance policies. You've got Om Japa in the chakras, you've got Navi, and you've got Mahamudra. I had the Mahamudra, but I didn't have the other 2. Those are your built-in Kriya Yoga insurance policies. So the yogi who goes deep and does not have Navi, you have a high possibility to encounter fear. Because it's built into your brain. It's built onto the right hippocampus, and that is the structure that you're using to go deep in meditation. Expansion. That's the right brain. And you're going to use that, whether you call it the right brain or not. It doesn't matter. When you get close to silence, you're using the right brain. And you're going to encounter maybe some of that fear. So by God, do yourself a favor and do the Navi Kriya. Do yourself a favor. Don't overuse the spiritual eye. Use the medulla instead. Use the crown instead. Do yourself a favor. Don't just do the spinal breathing. Do Om Japa in the chakras. And if you're in a crisis, if you have Kundalini going through the roof, don't try to go deep in meditation. You've got to learn heaven and earth. You have to learn that. You have to embody that. How do I do that, Forrest? Well, I was trying to teach everybody Qigong. Maybe that's a little hard. It's easier. Lay down on the ground. Go out on the grass. Go on the beach, on the ocean if you can. And lay down in the sand. And surrender, let go. You can do it right here in your living room. You can do it anywhere. Lay right down on the floor. I let go, I surrender. I let go, I surrender. I let go, I surrender. That is grounding and letting go at the same time. It's very, very powerful. And it will teach you the earth. And letting go, that's the heaven. And now you're balancing the 2. And when you're having a lot of Kundalini, that is your job. For I don't know how long, maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe a year, maybe 3 years. It doesn't matter. That's your job until you learn heaven and earth. I have to know both of those. I have to embody that in me, right? There's this principle in martial arts where they put up their arm and somebody presses on their arm and the structure is aligned and the pressure does not go into the arm. It doesn't go into the muscle when I try to force back. It goes into the structure and it goes straight through the spine, straight through the skeleton and into the earth. And now I'm embodying alignment. And that's what's going to happen to you eventually when you learn the principle of heaven and earth, that both are in you. I am up here and I am here. I am both. I embody all of that. Isn't that amazing and beautiful? It is so beautiful. Fall in love with that. Heaven and earth. And then you will have the balance which is necessary to increase your capacity. And that heaven will hit you and it will go straight into your relaxed and aligned structure and go straight into the earth. And it won't blow you back. That's the principle of heaven and earth. That was my crisis. I dare say, I didn't have somebody to give me all of the clues and give me the insurance policies like I just did for you today. So I think it took me altogether 5 or 7 years. And I just slowly went through my entire life and nailed everything to the floor. We'll take this concept up here from heaven and we'll nail it to the floor. And we'll take this concept about long breathing in the Kriya and we'll nail it to the floor with HRV resonance. And we'll take this principle of the divine and the hugeness of it and we'll nail it to the floor by understanding it comes through the right brain. And everything I present to you, I hope, is all nailed down to the floor. Heaven and earth together. And that was my crisis, and that is why I teach the way I teach. That's why I'm so passionate about the original Kriya Yoga, because I've experienced the entire road of another lineage, and I know exactly where it goes. Now, maybe somebody uses that lineage and it works well for them. Well, hallelujah. No problem. I love it. That's beautiful. That's great. I'm not taking away from that. I'm telling you, I took the whole road. I know how it works. That's all. And so take my advice if you can. Take my advice if it's useful for you and it works for you. And I hope that it does. I hope it serves you well. And if you love this, be sure to hit that bell down below so I can see you all next time.